Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll call to order this meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee of the Bridgewater Town Council.
And I will also call to order the Bridgewater Finance Committee. It's 5:33 p.m. with my members in attendance.
Okay, I will ask for an approval of the meeting minutes we have none so far, so if that's okay, we'll skip there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Let's see. So, it doesn't look like we have any meeting minutes for this evening to review. So, we'll move on to public comment.
Okay, we'll open it up for C, public comment. Any comments from the public? In person first? Seeing none. Debbie, any comments online from folks that you see?
If people could raise their, see anybody raised? No hands are raised.
Okay, we can move on to D, legislation referred. I don't know, I think it makes sense for you. That's right, all legislation.
Yep, so our committee will move to item E, new business. Our item, which will end up being the items that will be referred to budget and finance. Let's first start off with order OFY 26-035, transfer order for general fund free cash allocation. We're going to roll down to that. So it's going to be an amount of $4.297 million from general fund undesignated fund balance to the several funds that are listed here: General Fund Stabilization Trust, Capital Stabilization Trust Fund, OPEB Stabilization Employee Liability Fund, and one-time unforeseen funds for the grand total of $4.297 million. Before we start looking into all of this, my guess is that this is the amount that was certified by DOR recently. Justin, if you are able to give us a little bit more of an explanation.
Lori's gonna be speaking there. I'll be listening. Lori can do it. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, see you there, Lori. Sorry.
Well, thank you.
So your sister, you screen.
Madam Chair. So yes, this amount was certified by the Department of Revenue. When we closed our books for fiscal 25, June 30th, we submit our balance sheet and all of our accounts receivables, all of our reconciliation. So this is the amount of undesignated balance. We call it free cash. It's really what's left over in the undesignated fund of the general fund, which when the books close out, we have we have revenue that the estimated revenue that we projected. We have the surplus, which is kind of built in when you guys start voting for your fiscal 27 resolution. We usually add in an amount from the budget resolution to have some of this money available when we conservatively estimate our revenues. So we had approximately 1.9 million in excess revenue. So, which was within the amount that we were looking for 2% of our budget to put away for capital and for our OPEB and the other accounts that we have listed in the order. So we did have also an excess in our expenditure items of $1,021,000. And we also had an excess in some other miscellaneous revenues like investment income, which we conservatively estimated. But last year, we had a good year with our investments, which was over $1 million in excess of what we budgeted. And that sometimes, depending on the economy and how, our cash flow is and all that. So we did have a good year. So that makes up the amount of the about 4.2 that was approved by the DOR as certified free cash. That we usually, a lot of communities leave it in there undesignated and lets it build, and then they move it around. We like to put it away. We put it in our stabilization and the other accounts as you have in front of you. So that's how we build up our bank accounts and one-time other revenue sources, so that we've done this over the last 6 to 7 years, where we went from negative free cash and we had nothing. So because of our prudent budgeting and putting some money aside for later, we have been able to, as you can see, fund the capital stabilization fund, which also funds portion of the school district's capital needs in the town. So over the last 7 years, we've also made pretty large capital outlay investment of new vehicles, things that were, hadn't been maintained in years, buildings. So yeah, that's what we've been doing over the last 7 years. So this is another culmination of what we do is we put the money away for our specific uses so that the town can keep its bond rating high, so that when we go to borrow, we have a good interest rate as well. So
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Lori. I apologize. I didn't see you in the room. My mind usually gets zero focused on the
It's okay.
computer when we're
No
doing
worries.
things, so it's a
feel
Force
like
of
a little
habit.
person sitting in this chair.
So, with that information from Lori, are there any questions from members of the committee? Any comments or concerns?
I have a question.
Sure, Mr. Higgins.
So how much is in all these funds altogether? So we're moving 4.2 million out of the undesignated into these. So for example, like the unforeseen fund, what do we have in there? How much in the employee liabilities and the the pension, I guess, is the OPEB?
Yep, so in the stabilization fund, which we designate as the rainy fund, where we're putting 1,050,050, we, with this deposit into it, we'll be at 9.4 million. And that's pretty much our, not rainy day, but we consider that like to be, we want it to be about 10% of what our annual operating budget is, because that's what that's what we need in case of some major catastrophe, or when COVID hit, we were able to go into this fund and fund the operation. So that is where that's what our stabilization fund is usually left at. The other funds, the capital stabilization, the OPEB, play liability, and the one-time unforeseen, those funds, we put money in, but we're always taking it out, except for the OPEB. I apologize. The OPEB we leave alone, because that's for other post-employment liabilities. But the other three funds, they're in and out. So, there'll be 9.4 in the stabilization, and the capital will have 3.8. And our OPEB, 1.6 million. Our employee liability, I don't know if anyone remembers, but back in August, we took 475,000 or 450 from this fund to fund the supplemental appropriation for the school. So we're putting that back. So that fund will go back to 528,000, and the one-time unforeseen will have 400,000. So overall, the funds will have about 16 million, but again, only the 9 million and the 1.6 million for the OPEB will be static. The other ones are in and out, money coming in, and we use to appropriate things as we come up the capital stabilization. We'd have a school appropriation for almost $1 million. So that'll come right from that. And then you'll see your town capital outlay needs in the next meeting agenda. So,
Did any other members have any questions? All right, hearing none, looking for a motion.
So motioned.
Motion made by Dr. Bennett. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Knoll. Josh, could you take the roll call, please?
Yep. MJ,
Aye.
Derek,
Aye.
John, Matt,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right.
Just kidding me, Josh.
Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. Rick.
That's okay.
And Rig.
I will also aye. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you,
The
Rig.
motion was approved.
All right, excellent. We will now move on to order OFY 26-036.
I'm gonna do the same one.
Oh,
Okay, we'll
Oh, we're just gonna go back.
Yeah, yeah. might
Okay,
as well,
great.
same topic.
sure thing.
So for the town council, budget and finance order OFY 26-035 is the transfer order that the finance committee just spoke about, general fund free cash allocation. Any questions from the councilors?
Yeah, so I think that Lori could speak a little bit more about this, but can you speak to the thought process behind how this money is allocated? Obviously, there's $4.3 million here. So can you speak to the kind of methodology behind these percentages? I know that we have a target of at least 10%. I think next year we're going to up that a little bit, but at least 10% to stabilization. And obviously we have capital projects that we know are coming, but are there certain targets that we're looking at?
Well, we, obviously, we, look at what our capital needs are gonna be. So we like to make sure that, when the plan comes out, you can see the next year coming, so we see what's on that to be, appropriated. So we look at the, let's go up here. So we look at where the money came from the buckets, right? So we want to put away the money from the revenue that we've kind of forecasted and projected. We like to put, about $1 million at least into stabilization or see where that stabilization balance is going to look like. But we do have like a formula. It's really not a static one, but we just try to take like the unencumbered expenses. We know that if we take that and look at that percent of the 4.2, we put that in the one-time unforeseen, because we know, like last year, we took a lot of money out of that fund when we had an acting town manager. We were paying the consultant. At first she was a consultant, so that was a lot of money. So we went into that 2 or 3 times and took money out of that for different needs, as well as the employee liability, looking at how many retirements we get coming up. We have been, the sunset of the contracts. We've written off all the buyouts, but we still have, quite a bit of liability that has been going down quite significantly over the past few years. So we kind of use a random percentage of where to put the buckets based on where the money came from. So.
I would just chime in, sorry to interrupt, and Lori did a good job there. One other thing that we factor in, obviously, is, when we look at stabilization, we not only look at the percentage, we account for, hey, if we're going out for a lot of debt or loan authorization, we're going to have to go to the bond rating agency. They're looking at what our percentage of undesignated funds are. So we're accounting for that when we're looking at it. In regards to capital, we're not only looking at, our expenses or commitments through leases previously. We're looking at what's coming down the pipeline, et cetera. One of the things that I've heard and I wanted to prioritize, and I think the council wanted to prioritize the community, is trying to allocate additional funds for trying to address roadway issues, for example. So putting some more in our capital so we can at least start a process to address those things. We're not going to answer them or all in 1 year, but at least starting that process. So I think it's listening to the community, is prioritizing what's important, and then allocating those funds accordingly. And as Lori explained, the employee liability, et cetera, that's realizing what our buyout commitments are, that's looking at projections on retirements, et cetera. And also one time unforeseen, realizing, hey, we have expenses that might need to come down. The audits that we've authorized or compensation studies that we have to do, et cetera. So, we're looking at all those things when we make these recommendations on how to allocate the funds.
Yeah, that makes sense, because obviously it seems like we have a little bit more prioritization on capital this year, because twice that amount's going to then stabilization. So I guess the question is, should we put even more to capital and maybe less to general fund stabilization based upon our priorities to pave roads, with Chapter 90 being so abysmal and, that being a big priority of the town. So that was just kind of where I was eventually getting to.
Of course, like as Justin was saying, what is the priorities of the town and the town council? That you can fund whatever those priorities are by utilizing any of these funds. So, we try to put them in buckets where you can kind of, decide from. So
one other thing, and I don't want to take too much time because I know you have Superintendent Powers there and you want to have time to talk with him there. But for example, we were looking at, what the town's contribution to the stabilization fund has been over these past several years. Not very rarely, I think the past few years has been 3 times we've been able to put $1 million into the stabilization fund. So it's not every year that we have that commitment. But we also have to look at this, for example, the budget resolution that we have presented. We're looking at reducing our undesignated from 2% to 1%. The effect of that is logistically, you might have less free cash, and less free cash, less funds to provide to the stabilization funds or the capital funds, et cetera. So the decision we made this year was strategic, realizing we might not be able to do $1 million again, but we are going for loan authorization. We're going for debt. We need to account for that. So that's why we put it there. But we also put a little bit more into the capital, realizing we do want to make some sort of improvements. So, we feel very confident with those decisions, and there was a lot of thought put behind it.
All right, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, so we will now move on to the next item of new business for our committee. Order OFY 26-036, transfer order Bridgewater Rainham Regional School District operational review. I'm just gonna scroll down here at this. And this is for an appropriation of $33,913 from our one-time use unforeseen fund for the town of Bridgewater share of an operational review of the Bridgewater Rainham Regional School District. And there were items that were attached. I know the committee received an additional piece of documentation earlier this afternoon for another part of this matter. So I believe we will open this up to Lori and to Justin for a little additional detail.
All right, which one are we on?
Operational review.
Okay. So this operational review actually, it's just the Bridgewater's portion of what has been discussed among, at the town council level of what has been asked from the community. So
I can tackle a little bit, and then maybe you might want to have your counselor speak to it, because I know some of the counselors and the school committee have done this. But the town has explored, and I put this order together based on a commitment from the school committee, from Raynham and Bridgewater, to look at every opportunity to review our practices, see that where there's opportunities maybe for efficiencies or improvements, et cetera, but also to highlight, any sort of funding gaps that may be had. As Lori mentioned, there was a commitment from the communities, from Bridgewater and Raynham, to fund their shares. Raynham approved theirs portion at town meeting, and this is Bridgewater's portion of funding a organizational review. And I don't know if Johnny, if you want to add anything further, because a lot of this work was done with the working groups between the school committee and the various councils and select boards.
Yeah, this was done at length in great depth with working group between the council and the school committee and the members of the Raynham Select Board. So very confident in what we put together. This was months and months in the making, and I think ultimately it's going to be what's best for our community. I'm happy to answer any questions that if anybody has. Just from my perspective, I could do the very best that I can, from my point of involvement.
I do have at least a couple of questions and concerns, Councilor Reddy. Is this above and beyond what the district would normally do for an annual audit?
This is not an audit now.
No? It's not in any way like a forensic audit or any type of background review of?
It's a operational review.
Okay. Because this is the first time, my committee's seeing it. I'm pretty sure several of my members, this is the first time we're seeing it. I'm kind of struggling to understand why we need to spend this amount of money when shouldn't our school district have already been working on these types of things through their administrative processes? I don't understand how we can justify $33,000 of unforeseen one-time funds for something that should be done in the normal course of business, that we as an invested interest, being the town of Bridgewater, but also our partners across the border in Raynham, have a vested interest in. We have, as those member communities, an expectation that stuff like this is already being done on a daily basis. I would think it's really hard for me to justify why this would be put up now. I find it really hard to understand as to what how this came up organically more or less. Like, it kind of, I understand what you're trying to go for, but I don't understand how this is different from what the district would be expected to do on a daily basis.
Yeah, so what I could kind of speak to in the interest of time, because we don't have hours to sit here to go through all the details of the many, many hours that we've had of meetings, but what I would kind of bring it all back to is increasing trust amongst the voters that we are leaving no stone unturned in this process. Obviously, the school district is doing everything that they can, as you're saying, on a day-to-day basis, and I think they're doing a terrific job, but the voters overwhelmingly voted against an override in the spring. And a lot of the feedback that I got from voters was that they don't think that we are doing enough work on both the town side and the school side to make sure we're identifying every ounce of efficiencies that we have. I think that funding our towns and our schools are both a two-pronged approach. You need to look at spending and you need to look at revenues. And in order to satisfy both of those prongs, you need to look at spending and efficiencies. And that's what this does. When we have double-digit increase in cost drivers year over year, we have to dig down and understand the cause of that and making sure that we're doing everything that we can. We trust the school districts doing their job. I don't think the voters trust government right now. And I think that this is going to hopefully win a lot of trust. I think that no matter what the result of the review is, I think it's going to be beneficial and it's going to restore trust amongst voters.
Yes, Mr. Connery?
To the chair. I think that looking at this, trying to garner trust from the taxpayers, wouldn't it be better to do an audit, not a review, but a full-scale audit, which I think is what the people have been asking for in all reality. So that report, that's the kind of report when you get to the end of it, they tell you this is what's good, this is what's bad, and this is what you can do to take and make it better. I don't think an operational review, that's kind of like taking in a company, pulling one small department and saying, well, look, we know exactly what these guys are doing. And they really won't. So I think it would probably be better served to do a full-scale audit. Call it whether it's looking for we're not looking for anything to be wrong, and nobody's making accusations that they're not doing things right. It's just so that people can see it. An outside firm doing a full-scale audit. That's my thinking. And I'm coming in the back end of this because I don't have a lot of the background, but I have that background. I've been around the town long enough to have heard what the people on the street are saying. And that's what they want to see. They want to see an audit.
If I could maybe we're just speaking semantics. I think what the people are looking for, maybe I'm wrong, is they want to make sure that their dollars are being spent efficiently. And personally, I don't think that audit's the right word. In my opinion, audits are generally used to identify, malfeasance, theft,
Certain types of audits.
Yeah. So
So that's not the point. When was the last time we did that kind of an audit of the schools, for instance? Does anybody know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, the
That's what
auditors,
this
they're
was.
audited, they're yearly.
We have an annual audit we
Right,
have to go through. So that is something that, we have several reports that we have to submit to Department of Revenue, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. So we do have a third-party company to come in every year to audit the school system,
Right.
as well as submitting those end of the year reports that we have to submit to DOR, to DESI. We made those public. They're all on our website.
right.
I mean, again, I understand people have to go to the website to find those. So if there's a way we can make those more accessible to the community, we certainly can entertain that, because if people do have questions, they want to see those, we want to make sure that we can turn those over and say, here it is.
And what would be wrong with a forensic audit?
So I think, again, that's something that, we don't necessarily go through on a yearly basis, because I know typically when you use the term forensic audit, you are looking for some type of mismanagement. There's what we've basically been told by our auditors, because the school committee did ask this. They wouldn't go through or recommend a forensic audit, because based on their information that they have in their review and their comprehensive audit, there are no findings of mismanagement. And so they, to go that further step, They said you would really have to have some indication that there is mismanagement of funds in order to initiate.
And it's very expensive.
Pardon?
It's very expensive.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've been involved in a forensic audit, and my thinking is this. You're right, it is expensive, and you're right, they do an audit on an annual basis. But based on the fact that a forensic audit probably hasn't been done, if there is nothing going on that would require something like that, then nobody would have a problem doing it because they wouldn't be afraid of anything being found. So my opinion is, why don't we just do it? And then put all of that to rest.
MJ, can I say something?
Sure.
So from my understanding, Nick, we're looking at, like, if you looked at this, it's in-district versus out-district placements. So should we have special ed in our town or out town? And then we're looking at, the salary schedules and sketch. So we're looking at that kind of stuff because we've seen the audit. And so before going into like a forensic audit and spending all that money, we're just looking at like how the management of it, like why don't they take insurance and maybe come without insurance and stuff like that. It's kind of like what our town manager's doing. He's looking at all, the departments and stuff and seeing where we can fix stuff and stuff. It's not so much money. So we could save maybe a lot of money because what they're doing is not incorrect, but this would show, well, you could do this and this would help you with insurance money. This would help you with special ed. Kids don't have to go out. We can make our own programs. So this is just looking at how they run it before we spend anything with the money.
Once again, wouldn't an audit, a well-done forensic audit would come back with recommendations?
I don't know. I've never done one like that, but I know our restriction on money. And between us and Rainham, this is what we can afford to at least start with. And that's how I think the working group came together about it.
I guess I have to add to
Please.
Nick's trepidation on this. I feel like some of these items could be dealt with through Mr. Powers's own administrative staff. I mean, his district has a business officer. The one thing here, health insurance plan design, enrollment mix, contribution strategy, these are all things that the business manager should be, it's incumbent upon their roles to take care of these types of things. I mean, I've been in treasurer collector's office. I understand what those types of things are for a treasurer collector to deal with. Mind you, I've not necessarily had the ability to be in the role of a treasurer collector per se, but I understand that there are certain things you have to look at, you have to review that are incumbent upon your position and your role. It's what you're being paid your salary for in order to, address these types of things. Labor and compensation, that's more of a negotiation between your staff, your teachers unions, your collective bargaining units. That's more of an internal procedure. We can't be, privy to those types of procedures because, again, collective bargaining under Massachusetts general law cannot necessarily be a public outside process. But a lot of these things are what the school district is already required under Massachusetts general law to do on a daily basis. I don't understand why both Bridgewater and Rainham have to contribute funds out of one-time stabilization or one-time use funds that could be used for other types of situations or emergencies such as repairs or ability to retain staff, to basically ask the school district, please tell us what you're doing that we already know that you're probably doing because you're required by law to do so. I understand the desire for transparency from hearing from the public. I appreciate that. I talk to people in town too, but I just feel like there's a different way of going about this. I mean, I feel like there's a good amount of openness and transparency amongst the town of Bridgewater, the town of Rainham, and the Bridgewater-Rainham School District. They are their own separate entity, but they are beholden to us. And through their ability to operate on a daily basis, I have no doubt that they're spending their money the way they're supposed to. Otherwise, they wouldn't be asking us for it every annual budget process. But this type of a study, this is stuff that should be done on a daily basis by the school district. It's being done at the top levels, I would think. If it isn't, then we have a bigger conversation that we need to have.
Well, to be frank, it's not being done when the initial health insurance quote comes back at 20% year-over-year increase, right?
Full disclosure, though.
The town is at 6-7%. So
I can speak to that in 3 years.
yeah, that's just one example.
Yeah.
We could be here all night
I mean,
if you want.
I'll let you speak, Mr. Power, but I mean, full disclosure, health insurance costs have been rising. In the previous municipality I was in, they were gonna go for a 22% increase. And that was across the board, and they only had a school department. They didn't have a district, but their costs were driven by the exact same factors that we have as a regional district. It's all across the Commonwealth, if not across the country, but, and I'll let Superintendent Power speak to it. These are costs that we don't necessarily have control over. Even if we're in large bargaining groups, they're basically telling us this is what we have at this point. So I'll leave it to the Superintendent Powers to give a little more granular detail on that. But as far as I'm concerned, I reading it, just seeing it, I love the purpose, I love the idea, but I feel like they're already doing this on a daily basis. Why are we throwing more money at it? Mr. Powers?
Thank you. Yes, I mean, just to speak to that and to obviously answer any follow-up questions, those are processes that we go through on an annual basis, daily basis to make sure. As I explained last year during the budget process to the council, to the select board, Rainham, and obviously the community during our presentations, much like the town, on both sides have cost drivers, and health insurance was one of them. As I explained during that process, health insurance was initially quoted at 20% because we had several high claims costs. Unfortunately, we had some staff members and family members that were very ill over the previous year, so that was driving up. We had seen on average high single-digit increases. Certainly never anything like that 20% increase. And what we've done since then, obviously, is to look to join a municipal purchasing group, look to, we reconvened our public employee committee. We've looked to join the GIC. Those are all things that we're exploring to try to drive those costs down. In terms of special education, I mean, obviously, those are, state and federal mandates that we have to live by. And when a student needs a certain level of service that we can't provide in town, and to Ms. McGrath's point, we're always better to provide those services within the district if we can. But sometimes building those programs and services costs money up front, adding additional staff before we can actually have those students come back. But if we're not able to adequately educate them within the district, we do have to send them out. And that's not something that, again, we did see a large increase in the number of students requiring out of district placement. 16 over the previous year. So those cost drivers are there. Those are our reality. Those have been explained. Certainly I can understand Mr. Loretti's point about getting feedback from the community and wanting to confirm that we are going through these processes and practices. And if this is what it takes, then, I don't want to speak for the school committee, but as a district and school committee, I think they're willing and I'm willing to go through that process. But I also think it's important to share that these are things that are happening on a daily basis and an annual basis that we are reviewing to make sure that our practices are efficient. We're obviously a learning organization, so if there's ever an opportunity for us to improve our practice, learn, and grow, we're all for that, and we would never shy away from that. But I don't, and I know Mr. Loretti was not implying that these things are not happening on a regular basis. But I just wanted for the record to make sure that everybody understood that. To MJ's point that these are happening.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Are there any other members that have any questions or comments?
I do.
Mr. Higgins?
So in the audits, that every audit I've ever been in, they come back with a list of things to improve upon. Did you have any of those? I mean, they're not necessarily published in the audit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There were two small findings, I believe. One around student activity accounts.
Yeah.
And so, obviously funds that we bring in through any type of fundraiser, the school pictures, user fees, those are all going to the student activity accounts.
Okay.
So there's a small finding there in terms of reconciling those accounts.
Okay.
And the second one, you'd have to do the rest of memory. Yeah. We can certainly share.
The main one was just the student activity.
Because during an audit, you got capital funds and projects. I'm sure every one of those receipts are looked at. Are they not?
Okay.
And then the procurement, whether it be capital or operating, is looked at, right? So it falls in the right budget, and the historical financial analysis. That should be fairly easy to come up with. You've got the numbers. So you're looking at 2 or 3 points here to spend $100,000 on. Does seem like it's kind of crazy at this point. And the other thing too is, do we decide who would go do this work, and will they be independent?
We did put this out through the state bid system. We sent it this proposal out to, I believe it was 12 different accounting firms that are already on the state list.
Okay.
So we did receive only one proposal back. We haven't obviously entered into any type of contract because even in the request for proposals, we stated and specified that we couldn't enter into any contract
Right.
until funds were
Yeah,
approved. So we haven't moved forward with anything, but the proposal that we received back would encompass this scope of work.
I guess as a follow-up too. So you have 10 firms that were out there, but only one gets back to you. Do you understand why that is? Or is it because the price isn't right, or they just don't, there isn't a whole lot of this work out there? Or
We didn't
what is
necessarily
the
get that feedback. Our contact at the state level did say she was going to reach out to these other firms because I know from the Combis program, they really want other companies bidding on projects. That's the whole reason why they
absolutely.
go out and join the state bid list. And so she was going to get that feedback, but we didn't necessarily.
Mr. Powers, thank you. I do understand that the school committee chair, Ms. King, wanted to actually contribute a couple of comments.
Thank you. I appreciate recognizing my vice chair. I do wholeheartedly agree with you. This is something that our business office and Superintendent Powers has been working on, especially last year with the budget issues that we had and the failed override. Those are all items that we've been working on all of our cost drivers. However, I do agree with Council already that sometimes having a third party on the outside review your budget and give you feedback and efficiencies, that is easier sometimes for the public to see that. Rather than me as school committee chair or Superintendent Powers saying that everything is fine, we're doing our best. Sometimes it is better to have that third party review it and to tell the public, like, yes, we agree, or yes, we found these things to look at. So I do think that the benefit is there for that reason to spend this 55 potential amount of money right now.
I do have an additional question for you, Madam Chair. Would this have been something that the school committee would have been able to help out with a subcommittee group from your group?
So we have been working specifically on things that are extremely expensive, like the health insurance was our #1 priority. We have that put out to our PEC committee. So they're trying to negotiate that with our union right now. So these are things that we're working on within our subcommittees and in budget. But again, I think it is important for the general public to see that another company looking at it to see where we're identifying, or if there's other things that we can do. I'm, a paralegal. I'm not an accountant. Superintendent runs the district and we do have a business officer, but we do need help. And it has been a couple of very hard years. So if there's anything we could find, it would benefit both towns, benefit the school district. So that's just to give you some, I agree. We do have our subcommittees and our business offices working on it. But I think from an outside perspective, I think a third party that's unbiased might help the public to understand. A lot of people from the general public do not understand public education budget related, or specifically public education from a regional district, which is also separate from municipality budgets. So just.
I do have one final question then, Madam Chair. DESE, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, would they have had any programs or grants within their department that would have been able to help lighten the load of the cost of this operation, or to
I can ask them.
They haven't, their grants typically don't involve some type of operational financial review or student focused. Bringing in programming support for students.
So there weren't any like technical assistance programs that the state could have provided or given us help for? Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm okay with spending money where money should be spent and how it should be spent. But if it's something that we can get from the Commonwealth to help us, because obviously, 351 towns and cities and several hundred school districts, it is a pretty heavy lift, and there's not always a lot of resources available at the local level. So it would be something that I would think that maybe the state would have had something available to BR. I'm all for greater efficiency, greater operational ability. So at least I have my answer. Then there wasn't really anything from the Commonwealth that would have been able to assist with this or defray the costs or anything of that matter.
Right, now that we came across or were aware of.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions or comments or concerns from the members?
I would only have one other comment. I think it's a good thing, but is it a priority now? We have a water problem. We have class size problems and everything else. Is this at the top of the list to be spending money? That's kind of the way I look at it. Is this maybe in its rightful time and place, we go do this, but right now, I mean, with what all the priorities the town has, is this where we should spend $100,000? So my only comment.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. All right, any other members looking to provide comments or input? If not, I'd entertain a motion. Motion made. Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second? Going once, going twice.
I'll second it to vote on it, right?
Second by Mr.
That's
Higgins.
what you
Yep.
want us to do, so.
Josh, can you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
No.
Derek. 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 Okay, nothing from Derek. John,
No.
Matt,
No.
Nick,
No.
Mark,
Yes.
Rig.
I will abstain.
Thank you. The motion did not pass.
All right, thank you, everyone. All right, now moving to the Budget and Finance Subcommittee to hear that portion of it.
Okay, order OFY 2636, transfer order, Bridgewater Rainham School District operational review. Any
Motion to
comments?
approve.
Awesome. I have a quick comment before I take that motion. I also feel similar. I think this is not the time or the place to be spending $33,000 of Bridgewater's money for something that I believe we should already be doing. I've been very vocal about this at the council level. So I will be voting no with respect to the work that's already been done to be put into this. And the recognition at the school council meeting that, a vote was taken there. But again, I voted no. I'll stay consistent with this. I don't think this is a good use of taxpayers' money at this time. So again, I'll vote no, but I'll take any motions if there are no other comments.
I made a motion, so that's the second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Aye. Let's get 2-1.
So now we're moving on to order OFY 26-037, transfer order Bridgewater Rainham Regional School District Capital Plan Transfer. To transfer the amount of $976,138 from capital stabilization to the item that is listed under BRRSD School Capital. Transfer will fund requested Bridgewater Rainham School District Capital Outlay projects as outlined and approved by the Bridgewater Rainham School District Committee. I believe this is something that my membership received documentation on earlier this afternoon. I do hope that folks were able to review it. The list of items that are on the documentation in our packet this evening coincides and matches with the material that we received this afternoon. So I will open it up to Lori and Justin for additional information.
Thank you. So the order before you is the capital payment request from the Bridgewater's portion of the school district's capital plan. So this was in fact disclosed and presented to the communities at the time of the budget back in March and April, and subsequently voted by the school committee in May. So this is, you'll see the specific projects, but this was already voted, and then we had some issues and it was revoted again by the school committee after the supplemental appropriation, because we historically vote this with our free cash once we get that certified. So I can turn it over to the school superintendent Ryan for the details of everything, but this is in fact an appropriation that has been approved by the school committee already. This is our portion of it being appropriated.
Thank you, Lori. Superintendent Powers?
Sure, happy to provide some context and certainly a little bit greater detail. As you know, obviously one of the biggest investments the town makes is in infrastructure and in their facilities, and the school department is no different. As you know, we have multiple buildings across the district, but specifically in Bridgewater, we have 4 buildings, the high school being the regional high school, the O'Donoghue Middle School, the Williams Intermediate, and the brand new school, the George Mitchell Elementary School. We range anywhere from buildings being 3 years old, the George Mitchell, to being 64 years old, the O'Donoghue Middle School that was built in 1961. Various buildings have gone through some renovations over time, but nothing significant. And so This list reflects, the ongoing maintenance, the upkeep of those buildings, as well as the athletic fields and the school complexes, as well as, some capital items that we are requesting. What I tried to do here is align your capital document that you received from Laurie with some talking points and provide a little bit more detail for each item. I'm happy to go through this. I certainly don't want to assume that you need me to read through each line, but I'm happy to give an overview if that's what you'd like me to do. I can certainly do that for you. I also tried to show you some information at the top of this document, just a historical request that the district has made of the town of Bridgewater. And you can obviously see it varies from back to 2022 all the way up until now. Again, I guess I'll at the will of the committee, if you'd like me to go through, I'm happy to do that and kind of talk school by school or even item by item. I'm not sure if there's a preference.
Can I just interject one more thing?
Sure.
So these particular school appropriations being requested are part of the town's master plan that you'll see the 26, 20 to 31 coming out. But these appropriations have been in that document. So if you go back to last year's document, you can see in FY26 that the school's already looking to fund these particular projects that have been on their capital plan as well.
So I was gonna say, I noticed a bunch of them looked familiar to me, so I was thinking they were already part of the town's capital master plan for 25 through 31. So so they did look familiar to me. So this is more or less we're just basically affirming what we are already, we already targeted it for replacement or to change over or have repair or improve. So if there are any questions or comments from members, Mr. Higgins?
I always have a question. Help me out on the accounting here. So a lot of these look like they're operational or repair and maintenance type stuff as opposed to capital. So the distinction, and we seem to move money into reserves and the capital surplus, it will, but how do we determine whether it comes out of an operational budget or you put it forward as capital? And does the town have the same policy that the school does?
That I can't speak to. That's certainly something that Laurie and I can talk through to make sure we're aligned. For us, obviously, we look at the actual facility itself. Are we doing the type of maintenance, improvements, repairs, upgrades, not just the building, but also the operating systems within. And then we're also looking at the equipment in order to be able to maintain those buildings. So for example, you see the auto scrubber. Those are large purchase items for us, anywhere from $10,000 to $17,000. So those would be what we would consider on our side capital expenses, given the price, because they're a single item, piece of equipment to be able to use to maintain our buildings.
Okay.
Not sure if I answered the question. Okay.
But like you come down here, so one of the things I have on the town side that always bothers me, it doesn't bother me. One of the questions I have trying to get answered is when we do something on the capital side, we do not set aside anything to maintain it down the road. So for example, computer chips or whatever, replacement of computers. Why would that be on here if we're replacing computers? I mean, we've already bought them capital-wise once. They just need to be upgraded or whatever the case may be.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And fencing, denting of fencing. I mean, or maintaining fields or weeds or all that. Doesn't that fall under an operational side? Does it meet your capital requirements?
So for us, for example, like the fence or the preventing the growth from under the fence. Maintaining that on a daily basis would come out of our operation. So we have a landscape and grounds department. Repairing the actual physical fence, for us, that would be a capital request that we would make to either town. And so when we look at a tangible item or a piece of equipment or doing something to the buildings, we always view that as a capital expense or a capital request.
And it's in a plan, so if you're fixing it now, you hope to get in the queue for the next 5 years or.
Exactly. And most of these items, I mean, with the exception of, a few should be multi-year. It's not something that we're going to come back next year and say, oh, the auto scrubber broke, or, we need to do a yearly maintenance plan on the auto scrubber. That's going to be a capital expense. That would be built into the operating budget.
And then, so there's water filtration in here. We've got a water problem everywhere. I mean, 200 grand. And then what does that do? Again, priorities. You hear from everybody at the schools, we need smaller class sizes, everything else. Understand we have a big water problem here, but now does anybody have an issue with putting it just in one school or cleaning up one school when we've got it all throughout town as well?
And that's a great point. That was something that we looked at over multiple years, adding filtration systems to the other buildings. So this was we just started with this building, and then we're going to do multiple buildings. Really, and just to provide some context, obviously the water is tested at all of our buildings on an annual basis and sometimes more than once. The O'Donoghue Middle School has been flagged in the past for high levels of lead and copper. And so this is really born out of that. And obviously, the issues that the town is experiencing, we thought that, there wasn't much that we could do, obviously, to remedy that other than to, try to put some filtration system in the buildings at the point of contact, not so much where the water is coming into the building, because again, a 64, 58-year-old buildings, those pipes, as the water travels through, but looking at, in the kitchen areas, in the high contact areas, the bubblers, the faucets, the staff rooms, those types of places.
So the chair.
Yep.
That school's not new by any stretch of the imagination. And it's pretty commonly known that 99% of the plumbing in there is copper and solder contains lead. So that's endemic. Wouldn't it be smarter, instead of an ongoing maintenance product known as a filtration system, and they're expensive, to start to replace the piping so that you don't have this problem again? Because keeping the piping in there is just going to keep on bringing. And filters are not normally known for 100% accuracy.
No, absolutely, that is true.
But going from copper to the new PVC, for instance, which is made to be potable, is a whole different ballgame. And you know what? $200,000 probably could do a fair amount of plumbing work in there, in my opinion.
One of the issues that we've run into, especially at the O'Donoghue Middle School, is anytime we've gone to look to do some type of renovation, obviously given the age of that building, we do find that, there are areas where there's asbestos, especially around the piping. So when looking at, do we start to open walls up and start to remove piping, there would be we believe, a greater expense to remediate the asbestos that could still be in that building. But to your point, that's, this is short term, it prevents it versus actually replacing it. But that's why we didn't go the replacement route. We felt as though that when we start to, even when we've done some work on like tile floors, we had to be very mindful of, the age of the tiles. Do we have to put some type of remediation practices in? Because again, asbestos under there.
Right. But realizing that you're putting a Band-Aid on it and the asbestos doesn't go away. Having served on a school committee, I can tell you that it's quite popular to take and do the Band-Aid effect, mostly because of the fact that it's a money problem. But ultimately, you end up spending the same amount of money over a period of time getting it done. And you're right. You know the old story, when you go to a house and you do some work, you figure it's going to cost you this much. Looking at what you see, then you pull the wall out, you find out it's all rotted behind it, so you have to do more work, so it's more. I think people could appreciate that, and plus the fact that they would realize that it would be, the health safety of their children. I don't think you'd get an awful lot of pushback if that kind of a proposal was placed before the townspeople, as opposed to filter. I think, John's point that, we have a water problem. This is different. This isn't associated with the wells, in my opinion. I don't know. That's speculation on my part, by the way, but it certainly sounds like that. But that being the case, that's what you would hear from the town. I think that perhaps a different course of action might be better received by the town. If they're going to spend money, I think I take spending taxpayers' money as a sacred trust. We don't know what's going on in every single household in this particular town, let alone the Commonwealth or the country for that matter. And when you're doing that, you're saying we're going to spend X amount of dollars. You don't know that somebody, that extra $100 or $500 in their tax bill can't won't grate them. And, you know, I mean, to me, it's important that you are as efficient as possible when you do come forward with that. And when you're selling this to the community, if you sell it in that respect, I think you get an awful lot more support.
Great,
My,
thank you.
my opinion.
Mr. Palmer, just for me, and we'll move on because I know we're running short on time. Superintendent, is it possible that the O'Donoghue School could probably be targeted for a potential full renovation or MSBA funding? Because it sounds like with that building, the current state that it's in right now, with asbestos in the walls, with the piping itself, and obviously to Mr. Palmer's point, is that something that the district is looking at from a long-term perspective? Because the school itself is a capital asset. Is that something that you folks may be exploring as contacting MSBA for potential renovation of that building?
So that's certainly something that we have started to talk about internally with our facilities department, you know, weighing the cost of how much do we invest in this building, given its age, given the amount of work that needs to be done. Is this something that, you know, not next year, the year afterwards, but, you know, 5 to 10 years, are we coming back and saying we need a new school or a complete renovation of this building?
Thank you, Superintendent. All right.
So just one last point. Is this just our share or is this split between Rainham and?
I believe, Lori, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this 976,000 is actually Bridgewater's share of it. The town of Rainham does have a share as well. This is out of
For
our.
the school, the whole school, it's 100% Bridgewater. So the town of Bridgewater will fund its own schools, and then Rainham funds its own schools for capital needs. The high school and the district-wide stuff is the 61.
Right, so there's some on here for the high school and the district wide.
Yeah,
So
and
how does that get?
That's allocated with the enrollment percentage.
So that is just reflective of the Bridgewater share. So if you were to look at some of these
Okay,
numbers.
So you're saying that this is only 60% of the number then?
For the district-wide ones, but for this particular school, it would be 100% Bridgewater.
Right, the elementary school will be all Bridgewater, but the high school and district wide is only 6, so we'd have to total that up and divide to get the outside.
High school.
So like that, so that's why you're getting.
So, thank you for that, Lori. Thank you for that, Superintendent Powers.
Thank you.
Like I said, since we are short on time, we have one more item to go. I would entertain a motion on this if there are no other concerns or comments.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve made by Mr. Lightfoot. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Mr. Thomas. Josh, could you take a roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Derek,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Nick,
No.
Mark.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, thank you, everyone. We're going to move on to our last item on our agenda. Resolution R FY 26-003, FY 2027 budget resolution. Oh, yes. And we'll do our part after that. Sorry, it's, been a while since we've had
We
one
want to
meeting.
leave too.
Yes, I am.
We're only going down the hall. Okay, same thing. I'm not gonna read the order, but any comments from the councilors?
Yeah, I have two quick questions. Mr. Powers, thank you for giving that detail. It really was helpful. So like with the sprinkler heads, do you do a market research where you get like 2 or 3 quotes?
So we do. So, you know, we look at it. We have a sprinkler company that we use to service our sprinkler systems on an annual basis. So they do that work for us, you know, because we've only been replacing them periodically throughout the years. And this is something even predating me. This is my 11th year in the district. The building's not that old, but for whatever reason, the sprinkler heads, you know, constantly rusting out and then just letting go. So we have anything from a small leak to a big leak. But because we've never had to do a full replacement, we haven't gone out to bid because we've been doing it on an annual basis, smaller increments like this. So this would be to do the remaining, I believe, 20% of the sprinkler heads of the high school.
Okay, and the other thing is the reconstruction of the curbing and relocate of the crosswalk. Doesn't that have to be approved by planning, and wouldn't the town do that?
So that's something that we haven't done in the past. We've done curbing work ourselves in terms of ADA compliance. That is not something that we've brought forward to planning, but certainly I can reach out to them to see if that's something that they need us to do.
In the crosswalk, you guys can move that?
The crosswalk I'm sorry. So to your question, Mary, the crosswalk itself is actually in the parking lot, not in the road. Yes. Yeah.
All right.
If you can picture the O'Donoghue Middle School main entrance, over here is the gym entrance. The actual curb cut is over there by the gym, and then if somebody were to access that in a
Okay.
wheelchair, they have to go all the way down the sidewalk to the main entrance. So we just want to move that curb, well, keep that curb cut, but then put another one by the main entrance, so then we'll have two at either entrance.
All right, thank you for clarifying.
I have a question regarding, Mr. Higgins brought up, repairs and maintenance operations and whatnot. So I'm interested to kind of look at the mower and the Ventrac machine. These are landscaping machines. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Have we looked into outsourcing maintenance of the facilities?
We have, it's something that we looked at, separately. So grounds, landscaping and grounds, and then also building maintenance. So just for example, on a winter storm, if we would have snow today, depending on the timing of that storm, let's say we had to bring our maintenance and facility department in on overtime to plow. A lengthy storm would average anywhere from $800 to $1,500 worth of overtime costs. We've actually reached out to local landscape companies to say, could you come in and price just for the high school alone? It would be approximately, and this is going back a couple of years ago, about $10,000 for a landscape company to come in and maintain the high school just for snow removal during one particular storm. Obviously, in that winter, that cost would certainly go up. In terms of the actual maintenance of the interior of the buildings, custodial, privatizing custodial, we reached out to other districts that use private companies. Yes, there could potentially be a cost savings, but they actually believe, though, it has led to other problems. Depending on the company, depending on the worker, it's not a consistent worker, so you could potentially have a different worker in an area every night. They don't necessarily find that in some cases these workers are truly invested in the buildings and in their work. They run into security issues where, again, our staff knows every night they put a hand on every door, make sure all the doors are locked and secure. These other districts have run into problems where doors are left ajar overnight, during the work shift. So although there could be a small savings, the feedback that we received from their facilities departments is it wouldn't be something that they would recommend that we would explore.
Okay. Yeah, just thinking of, we were funding OPEB earlier. We've got a lot of employee liabilities. We've got pensions. We've got health insurance. So I'm thinking of all of the costs associated with having people, cut grass and maintain facilities. So that's just coming to mind for me. And then the water, Mr. Higgins already made a point there. We're going to discuss later on the potential costs of emergency and intermittent solutions for water. So why should we spend $200,000 in a filtration system here? Is it the right time to do that? I'm not sure. That's going to probably be deliberated further in our next meeting. But for me, that's just a concern of mine.
Motion.
Motion to move the record.
All those in favor? Aye.
I'm going to say no, only because I want to discuss this further and potentially make some amendments to the amount.
We just,
Mary?
I approve, yes, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
So our last item on our agenda, way back to us, is going to be resolution R FY 26-003 FY 27 budget resolution. I'm gonna just basically say that this is something that the council has come before them every year. For those who are new members of the finance committee, we see this every year as the beginning start of the annual budget process.
I just, before we go on, I'm sorry, I just wanted to make one point in terms of amending the budget, just so everybody's aware of that. That would obviously require approval by school committee. Where the budget has already been amended once, any type of non-approval could potentially force the joint town meeting that we're all trying to avoid early. I just want to throw that out there just so everybody is aware of what the potential could be if for some reason an amendment is requested or this is not approved at this evening, because if this isn't approved, then obviously our budget wouldn't be approved, which would then kind of force next steps.
So this is an all or nothing, essentially.
As it stands, school committee, if they were going to make any amendments, would have to agree to amend it. But that is obviously, they've already voted to approve this number. And so if it's then sent back, it would really be up to them to whether or not they want to entertain any type of amendment. And if they don't, then obviously
that's the issue. I've seen it. So.
Okay.
So we're really just approving the dollar amount.
Correct.
Yeah.
Word, well, so we're good.
Great.
But I just want.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for that clarification, Superintendent. All right, so as I mentioned, this is basically the resolution for the budget for FY 27. This is basically the general set of ground rules that the town council and the town manager will work with as they develop the FY 27 budget process. And we will be a part of it as well as the finance committee, but there are on the pages that we had before us, several things regarding solvency, cash flow, expenditures, financial policies. I will leave it up to Lori and to Justin to give us a quick Cliff Notes version, and then we'll take our action.
Thank you. So, yes, this does come before you every year, and it does signify the beginning of what the goals are of the council and of what they want the budget to represent in fiscal 2027. So these are just some targeted procedures, outlining the past policies, and they'll determine this, in subcommittee. I don't know if it'll be all decided today, but this usually kicks off the beginning of the budget process and the goals that will determine how we move forward with it.
Thank you, Lori. And so basically in a nutshell, for those of us who are veterans of this, same game, same rules. For new members, this is what you deal with. This is a part of our requirements. So let's get down to business. So any conversation, questions, and concerns on this item? Mr. Palmieri?
Yes. Unfortunately, due to my recent appointment, I have not seen this, so I don't feel it's something that without knowing exactly what's in it, that I feel fair voting.
Okay. All right. And also when you do take a vote, you can obviously say, you can abstain from it as well.
Right.
Right. Any other questions?
If I may, I know
Lori?
this portion's your meeting, but you said it's the same game, but it is slightly different from last year.
Well, I was speaking as,
Oh, okay.
it's the same general thing we do every year. It's a
Okay.
normal process. It's a normal procedure. I know the rules have certainly changed with this one this time around. So it's, it's the same general thing that we do every year. That's what I meant by that. I apologize for speaking in general terms.
If I could just finish and speak through to you, to Lori. Can we just clarify to everybody involved that we are making, in my opinion, a major change with this resolution? We are taking our estimated surplus of 2% and cutting that down to 1%. So effectively, as I understand it, we are underestimating revenues in doing that. So if we think it's going to be $80 million in revenue, we would decrease that by 1.6 million. Now we're only doing that by $800,000. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. And that's part of why we are able to drop up so much free cash every year, because we built this in. So we are cutting it a little bit thinner this year. I'm personally, we're going to talk in our section, but I'm personally okay with it. But I just wanted to speak through the chair
to let the finance committee know. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I think Justin earlier kind of briefed over the strategic thought of because this year's free cash, we were on target to meet what we were estimating to put away. And again, the stabilization is meant not just a rainy fund, but it's also meant to help the town in case local aid receipts go down, property growth goes down, things like that. So that is there to keep the town moving for a few years too, if there's an economic downturn. So with this year, because we're starting next year with a structural deficit, because we funded the fiscal 26 budgets with the supplemental appropriation and used one-time money from one of these stabilization sources. So we're already going into the budget without increasing anything at a structural deficit of almost 800,000, because we had to come up with that money because we did cut some programs. So that is why, I think we're looking to reduce the reserves for next year, because when we're starting this budget cycle, we're going to need that revenue just to get through this year. And what does that mean next year? We're not going to have a lot of, excess $3 or $4 million. That's just probably not going to be sustainable by reducing our revenue estimates to be more on target. It's not that we're reducing our revenues, but we're projecting it to be at a number that we know is significantly less than what we're used to, so.
This might be a dumb question, but when you talk about operating budget, so we're at 1% of the operating budget and 10.5%, is that of revenues?
No, that's of the operating budget.
So what is it, what does that mean to?
That's the expenditure, so.
So all the expense side.
Yeah, so
Okay,
like
all
that's
right.
that's what the budget is. It's $80 million of.
Right, but you've got revenue coming in, but the expenses should be somewhat less than the revenues because we're gonna be turning back money into a stabilization.
So we built in we over the years built in a little bit of projection to have some capital funding.
Yeah, but I want to understand what number we're going off of here, so it'd be the expense side of the budget. Okay. All
Thank you,
right.
Ms. Reagan. Any other comments or concerns? Did you have one, Sword?
No.
No? Okay. All right, hearing no other comments or concerns or questions, I'd entertain a motion.
So made.
Motion made by Dr. Bennett. Do you want to second it, Mr. Thomas? Seconded by Mr. Thomas. Josh, can you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Derek,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Nick,
Abstain.
Mark,
Aye.
Rig.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay. Do you want to end the meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to wait for-
I mean, we could, I mean, if you guys still need us for anything, we can at least.
Okay, we'll continue then.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to resolution R FY 26, the FY 2027 budget resolution. Any comments from the counselors?
I have one question. So it's going from 2.1 down to 1%? Is that what you're saying, Laurie?
About 2% to 1%.
So we're putting that other 1% in what fund?
We're not putting the money, we're just making our revenues. We're strategically going to estimate enough to cover our budgetary expenses. So usually we have money that, we're projecting to have at the end of the year. So, and we're always conservative. I mean, it's always conservative anyway, because we don't know what the governor is going to do. We don't know what's going to happen with the economy, and we're projecting, how we're going to end up 16 months.
So you're projecting 1% instead of 2.1?
Well, yeah, one thing I would add to that is it's a resolution, but it's also giving us a little bit of flexibility. I think the simpler way to explain that is I may not end up getting to a 1%. I may do 1.5%. I may do something else. Who knows? But in theory, if we look at last year's budget, this is probably the simplest explanation of it. If we didn't have a target of 2% last year, and it was 1%, we effectively would have had $700,000 more that we could have appropriated in the budget. That's how I look at it. $700,000 potentially could have been reappropriated into the budget. So obviously, as we dive into the budget, we'll make a determination of what budget we present, but it does give us some flexibility to address a lot of the concerns that we've heard. Schools need more funding, want to fund more firefighters, et cetera. It just gives us flexibility.
So we're doing it so you can use the money for whatever reason you want.
I want to clarify this. But yes, it's to provide flexibility as part of the budget process.
Okay.
Make sure I'm still awake.
Just make sure it doesn't get you caught.
Yeah, I'm saying.
The lazy math for me, not your lazy, but my lazy math is if the operating budget's around $80 million and if you take 2%, it's like I said before, 1.6.
Yeah.
You cut it in half. Now you have $800,000 more in operating.
Yeah.
So we basically cover that structural deficit that we created this past year by appropriating more money to the schools. So that $800,000 can now be a part of the operating budget.
Right.
And obviously, there's a lot of other things we need to look at, but that gives the flexibility
Yeah.
to work those dollars into investing in our employees.
I just want to make sure the flexibility where it was.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all.
And we get to approve the budget.
Right.
So
Thank you for that.
I'll make a motion to approve. Unless Paul, did you have any amendments you wanted to make?
Not yet.
Here.
I'll wait.
Okay, second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. Motion must be continue.
You want to introduce him? I'll make the motion. You're the
Yeah, you
chair.
want to do it? Yeah. Order OFY 26031, transfer order for prior year bill, sewer fund.
This is just a prior year bill that was not paid. It was not received inside of the timing of the fiscal year, so we're just allowing an appropriation inside the current budget to pay for this bill, which we've identified the funds in the current budget. But because it's a work in a previous fiscal year, we need the vote of the council to do that. And it was a SOAR, it was a SOAR subscription for computer. It was something that didn't discontinue, but the company sent it late, but it's still ongoing. So.
I'm comfortable with passing this, Paul.
Yeah, if you want to make.
I'll make a motion for.
Can I just ask one question? So a lot of this money that funds this is coming out of the sewer enterprise fund?
Yeah, the current budget.
Okay. I second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. Okay, order OFY 26032, transfer order contractual payments. Want to continue or what do you want to do?
I'm comfortable moving forward this one also.
Yeah.
Okay, so this order is, again, it's to fund contractual obligations of the town for employees that have left the employment of the town. And that is what is before you this evening.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. Order OFY 26033, transfer order CPC engineering for multifunctional fields.
So this, you guys had some extensive information in your packet. And this is to fund an engineering scope of work at the middle school for a project that has been applied for to the CPA. This is phase one of it, and they're looking to refurbish the back of the middle school. So yeah, I mean, I have Mark Thomas here. He could probably speak a little bit more if you guys want some information, but I think you have a lot of
We covered it at the last council meeting last month. Anyway,
Yeah.
if you guys have any questions, obviously. I'll answer them.
I'm really glad to see you guys doing this.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I got approval from CPA and
Yeah,
it's good use of funds.
it really is.
I'm okay with moving this forward if you guys are. I do have a lot of questions only because it's engineering, it's phase one. What does phase two, phase three look like? What's the total cost? Are we going to be, is another appropriation going to be coming back to us? What is that amount? And then all of the other questions that are associated with phase one. And yeah, we don't have a lot of time, so.
Just real quick, because I had to go over this with my committee. There's not a lot of moving parts to this. It's a fairly simple for a project. Overall, we're not building anything. We just have to get the engineering done so that we can establish the scope. You know, cost wise, we're going to stay within what's been approved, $500,000 from CPA. That's roughly where we're going to do. You know, other things we're going to reach out to electric companies, see if they can donate for lights and things like that. But once we get the engineering done, then we establish our scope and go from there. But it's fairly a 2, maybe 3 phase project. It's real simple as far as municipality work goes. So
that's my concern. It's 25,000. Is it, or is it 525,000?
no, that's out of it. That's 25 is out of the 500.
Okay.
500 is what we're looking at for our cap. That's what we applied for, as we approved. So 25 is the number. It's supposed to not go that high because I'm very adamant about that stuff. But the 25 is what we're taking to put aside for the engineering, get the scope of the project on paper. But that's I'm it's pretty adamant about keeping this where the price needs to be. That's.
And if I may add, if the other the people using the fields like the lacrosse or whoever the particular groups that will be using it currently is similar to the Little League and the youth football. They pay a fee determined by the Recreation Commission that the group pays to the town in a revolving fund. It's called the Recreation Revolving Fund. So that fund is used to usually maintain and buy the supplies and take care of the fields for those particular groups. So just thought again.
Don't worry, it's the cost of those fees to take care of.
Well, I'm doing everything I can not to. We've done a good job of bringing in other sources of income the best we can at Legion Field to help fund a lot of the work we're doing down there. So it's.
Want to take a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, we'll go to E. Any comments from the public? Just a reminder, we have 7 minutes left, so just make your comments quick and efficient if you could.
I was used to TV, I can do a soundbite. On the review, I was sad to see the finance committee voted down. I think it's necessary. I think if we want to educate the public properly on what we have and what we don't have, that we have to move forward with that. I speak as a citizen and a counselor. And as far as the capital plan, I think it was part of the agreement that we made with the school department earlier. And I don't think we can go back on that. I think that's necessary. I took a tour of the buildings. I plan to go to the Rainham portion on the 4th. I saw what great condition the schools were in with the custodians we have in place. I think if we outsource that, good luck to us. Okay, we should not do that. And I think that to see a 1961 building in good shape on the surface, not on the interior, obviously with pipes and stuff like that. I understand the want to replace all the pipes. It would be far in excess of whatever that would be. So I think we have to move forward on what we've already. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, take a motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And for our committee, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
And Jacob, could I just for our committee, I know these guys are busy, could we just have stay open for 2 minutes for
Additional items?
additional items? Yeah.
Yep.
But I don't want to hold all these people.
Yeah, if we want, I say let them clear the room first and then we'll.
I've been in recess.
Yeah, the 2-minute recess.
Thanks for really nice meeting you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Very nice meeting you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It was nice meeting you. No, good, all good points. I appreciate
your position. I do. Thank you.
Do you have, so when you see the corners, they're ready for you guys. That's 8 so much for everything.
No, I think, if someone was like, right back up, maybe what they feel like,
What's that, MJ?
Right, so you're still there, not right.
Yep.
We're still
MJ, and I will just say, with the additional items, I'll tell you in a minute.
I can't hear. We still have like a minute or so for our meeting.
I never just nice to see you again.
I know. No, it's okay. All right.
I think it's not wrong.
Alrighty, everyone. We're gonna try to reconvene for our 2-minute recess. Josh, we're still recording, right?
Yes, we're still recording, and I just wanted to comment that the additional items for discussion, it's just to bring up items to be discussed at a future meeting, not necessarily to use it as an opportunity to discuss an item that's not on the agenda.
So just want to make sure we're not opening something up and without it being on the agenda.
I don't,
Thank you, Josh.
thanks, Josh. I don't intend to do that. So one of the things I think would be helpful to everybody, I'm a new member to this committee, and I look around, I see Chris up there. There's a bunch of us that are new. If we'd either, I think maybe come up with maybe a mentoring program or somehow break this down where we team up into smaller committees or whatever to go tackle this. I mean, there's a lot of major issues here. And so one of the things, I guess I got two things I would like to propose for the next meeting. I'd like to ask that we get a dashboard again of where we are currently to budget. So like before we start entertaining all these big transfers of money, where are we in these funds? Where are we with expenses to budget year to date, revenue to budget year to date? It doesn't have to be by line item, but just in general to give everybody an idea. And then to have Lori give us the good and the bad, one of each.
So what I'm hearing then is for future discussion that we could put on the next agenda, Josh, we want to have we want to be able to discuss possibly breaking out the small subcommittees. So we'll add that as a subcommittee discussion. And then we'll do a conversation about what we're looking for those particular updates from the finance department and from the town manager where appropriate and available. So hopefully we can have that as additional items on our next agenda.
Yeah, and I do just want to say I apologize, Chris. I didn't know I just saw C. Raymond. I didn't know Chris was in the meeting. So sorry about that. I didn't ask him for his vote. So if in the future, just make sure your name is changed. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries at all.
And if all else fails, if we do our roll call and you don't hear your name be called, please do chime in. We do appreciate that.
I forgot Rig at the beginning. So.
Yes,
Mr. Fulmer.
That brings up a perfect opportunity for this, a segue, so to speak. There should be some kind of an onboarding process so that when people come in, I mean, this is what I had. This is what I had access to. Was this? That's a lot, obviously. I think it's important that the new members coming on, I recognize the fact that you're not going to know everything. A lot has gone on here, but I think it would be good to get a little bit of information. Say, by the way, at this meeting, this is what's going to be discussed. There are questions, protocol, any of these things, just so people know. I'm very fortunate. I've been on enough boards. I have a pretty good idea of.
You have an extensive history, Nick.
Or something. But bottom line is, it would be. I felt a little bit uncomfortable. I wish I knew more. I'm sorry. I was looking on your computer, and I appreciate that. But there was a lot of information that would have been nice to have had.
I do agree with you on that point, Mr. Palmieri, and also Mr. Higgins. There's a lot of stuff that we need to be able to do to sort of bring folks up to speed. It is, unfortunately, sometimes it's not necessarily something that I do have control over. It is something that I have voiced concern about that I personally would like to see, because oftentimes, I almost liken it to, for those who might be younger viewers at home, if you read comic books, sometimes you know what's called a good jumping on point for certain stories and arcs. It's sort of what happens when we have folks join our committee. We're in the middle of doing certain types of business, and y'all may not necessarily be brought up to speed on it. I'm hoping at some point, Josh, maybe we can have a conversation or an item with Justin to discuss how we can try to more formalize how we get folks up to speed when they're added to the committee, whether they're appointed by the council or by the town manager or by the town clerk. I think it is important that, everybody has that jumping on point, but they're all up to speed on what happens before, because just because you're starting to read a comic book doesn't mean you know the entire backstory of the character. You want to have to know all the players and all the understanding of all the events that have gone into what comes up to this date.
Absolutely. And you know what? I mean, even as a matter of course, Josh, just maybe information as to here is where you can access this information, how you can get that information, what you're going to be discussing, on the next meeting, on the previous meetings. This is what's been covered. Maybe a short paragraph of information like that would be appropriate. I don't know if some of it would come from the chair. But still, whatever, I think it's important.
And
that we do.
certainly-
And
and-
it is, and I meant what I said. We're dealing with taxpayers' money, and it's important. It shouldn't be taken lightly by any stretch of the imagination. We just went through an override vote, and there was an awful lot of sentiment during that. So you can tell people are concerned.
And now, and honestly, now, Mr. Palmieri, now that we have a full membership count, I think now is the perfect opportunity. Knock on wood, and the membership stays around. So thank you for all sticking around. I think now is like the perfect opportunity for us to have that conversation, so we can have those steps, those plans, those procedures, that process of planification. Because I myself am all for greater efficiency and greater knowledge, and also greater ability for members of the committee to discuss, and definitely not to violate any open meeting laws or anything like that. Exactly. Thank you. So that is something that I think we can now have that type of conversation. We now have a full membership count. So Josh, that is something I think I personally would like to see be on our agenda for our next meeting. We'll hopefully be able to dedicate a good chunk of our next meeting to those items of discussion, because I think those are now vitally important now that we're getting into the meat and potatoes of the budget process, but also now that we have members here. My desire and goal is to get all of you on the same page, so that when we're coming into a meeting, nobody is caught off guard on anything. So I think that's pretty much, yes, Mr. Knoll?
Please, I'm sorry. I finish your thought and I'll jump in.
All right. So I think that's vitally important. I think for us going forward, we need that, because now we can at least at a certain point be able to either produce some type of written product as a group through that process, or some practice and procedure that we can continue to use, whether or not our membership changes from time to time. We at least have something more concrete, and it helps us fulfill our constitutional obligation under the town home rule charter. And that's something I've been striving for since I got here on the committee 4 years ago, and I'd like to see it actually come to fruition. And with that, Mr. Knoll, you had something you wanted to say?
Yes, in the spirit of number one, having our team in full capacity, and number two, the suggestion and recommendation that was put out there to create subcommittees, we should be thinking about creating a subcommittee as well, an onboarding subcommittee amongst this group. Where, whoever, decides to be on that subcommittee, will come up with some, processes and, in ways we should be operating, in a sense of like, once we get new members and, understanding the process, whatever it is, right? So, we should be thinking about that in our meeting, coming up. Our next meeting is to create a subcommittee, for this specific reason.
Excellent. I think that'll be part of that agenda item. So Josh, if you can make a note of that, that'll be helpful. So if there aren't any other additional items.
One thing, if we're looking for things to be discussed next meeting,
sure,
or for down the road, and I apologize because I've made no secret, I'm here basically for Park and Rec. But you go with the can of worms with this whole budget thing in the school. I want to see if there's any way we can work with the school committee and get our eyes on like this itemization list that we had today. If we can get that ahead of time, because obviously today it's too late for us to make any changes. And I get it, and it's my fault for not being more involved earlier, I guess, or not being on the school committee or something else. But there's a lot of waste in that, and that's an area we could save. But if that's something we can get, I don't know if we can, legally do that with them, but if we can, I would like to see that before we get to this point where we're essentially rubber stamping it through for the meeting.
And to your point, Mark, that's one of those things that when we have that conversation with both Lori and with Justin, that is what's going to help guide us in that direction. Because sometimes we can get that stuff, sometimes we can't. We are unfortunately constitutionally limited in what we can and can't do. Sometimes we can be privy to conversations, sometimes we can't be privy to those conversations. I know when the Budget and Finance Subcommittee of the Town Council had a different type of composition, they wanted the Finance Committee to be involved. Ultimately, we were not involved, especially during the budget end run of the budget last year for the override. Full disclosure, we were not involved. We weren't even invited, and we should have been there in some of those meetings, and our voice was not heard. And whether that was a limitation under the charter or whether that was politics, I'm not here to discuss that or debate that. I just know that if our role as a finance committee is to operate in that space, then we should be in that space. And I totally agree with you with that. And that's one of those things that speaks to that position where we should be in those conversations. We should be in the room when those take place, where it is appropriate and possible, because I know a lot of us have busy schedules, but if we can at least get 3 members in that room at the exact same time with a budget and finance subcommittee and a subcommittee of the school committee, it's vitally important. And unfortunately, we were left out of that last time. And it's something that, unfortunately, it's sort of like something the budget and finance committee has to invite us to. And this is nothing that's unheard of or unusual to most folks. I know, you're definitely, I know, Mr. Palmer, you're definitely like, are you sure though, MJ? Like, I don't want to get into the politics of it, but it definitely.
They have to invite us. We can't request a seat at the table, is what you're saying.
Basically, that's what it looks like. But that's how it was always interpreted to me and how it was always told to me. It's like, we have to invite you folks to this first. This is what, your group as the finance committee is invited to, because we have to have this meeting legally. This is why you're here. We can't just we have to be invited more or less.
You believe that's charter-based?
I believe that might be charter-based, yes. If it isn't, I'm more than happy to have a clarification conversation on that, Josh. And, maybe we need to have a little bit more of a conversation of what the financial committee is listed as, because technically we're not really the finance committee, we're the Bridgewater Financial Committee. So we should be involved.
Yeah, your items are recommended by town council. So, yeah, I mean, I can talk to Justin to see if we can get a little bit more clarification on that. But no, I think MJ is correct in her assessment of needing to be invited.
And that's where some of our limitations are. And as I mentioned actually in a previous meeting to folks, this is where some of my frustrations come out, because I've actually talked with other towns in my travels. And I actually had a chance to talk to a finance committee chairman in another municipality. And when I told them what our finance committee does, and they have a home rule charter too, they're like, you guys are barely doing the bare minimum that you should be doing or that you could be doing. And there's a limitation there. So unless we have further clarification, that we have a little bit more empowerment, we can only really operate in the limited terms. And it bothers me because when the town charter changed, and this is for the edification of members and if there are any public at home, when our form of government changed back in 2010 to 2011, constitutionally, the financial committee superseded the advisory board. The advisory board being a very powerful constitutional financial arm of the town of Bridgewater under its administrator open town meeting form of government. When the town became council manager form of government with no town meeting whatsoever, the financial committee was supposed to be endowed with similar duties, but almost less of a jurisdictional authority, because under the charter, the town council has a budget and finance subcommittee. So as a result, the duties and powers of the old advisory board were split. And as a result, the town council's authority was more, it took primacy over our authority. So it ended up becoming that situation where budget and finance, or town council by extension, has to invite us to be in the room.
Josh, are we a ministerial committee or are we more advisory?
I'd have to double check the actual charter wording. I don't have it right in front of me. But I will say that I just
if I remember correctly.
I mean, you guys, when it comes to these items that are referred to you, you're not actually voting to approve, you're voting to recommend.
Yeah.
So I just want to reiterate I understand you guys are, you want to have this discussion, but it's really getting into a kind of a back and forth when this should be an item. If I'm happy to put it on the next agenda that you guys would like to have the role of the finance committee discussed and clarified. I'm just want to let you guys know that it's kind of getting out of the bounds of.
I think that's pretty much the items that we have for everything. Dr. Bennett, did you want to add something?
Oh no, just agreeing with the point made.
Okay. All right. So if there aren't any other items left to discuss for additional discussion, then we'll entertain our most favorite motion of the evening every meeting, our motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Henry. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Mr. Higgins. Josh, can you take the roll call, please?
MJ,
Aye.
Derek,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Rig,
Aye.
and Chris.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved. Meeting
All
is
right,
adjourned.
everyone. Thank you for coming this evening. We'll see you at our next meeting.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Have a good night.